Okay, now it says it's recording. We got to start all over. My name is Sean Tesher. I'm interviewing Sir David Andrew at sirdavidandrew.com. He has a law degree from a law school in Canada, a brilliant man who has worked diligently over the last 2 years to try and help represent in court for Indian chiefs who've been arrested, who are members of what is known as the St. Regis Indian Reservation in upstate New York. Dave's going to tell us the who, what, where, when, and why of what's happened and the significance of his representation and what it means for all Indian peoples. Go ahead, Dave.
The first thing is I'm careful with what I say about law degrees.
All right.
Okay.
Obviously, you gave a brilliant defense. You should be teaching law school.
Okay. I hold the title of honor of Herald, which is the highest honor title of honor that a commoner can receive. In any case, this is a case where a Indian longhouse, or an Ongwe longhouse, that is the Ganyankahaka Ganaragoa longhouse of Akwesasne. Ganyankahaka means the people of the Flint, or cut in the throat, commonly called Mohawk, but Mohawk is a derogatory term, just like the word nigger is a derogatory term. The word Mohawk means drunken Indian, or a worthless piece of you-know-what. That's what the word means, and yet people say it all the time, and nobody seems to understand what's happening out here. And news are talking about the St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Council as being the only recognized government at Akwesasne. Well, the problem is that is a Washington, D.C. corporation. In fact, it's not even a corporation. It's a what do you call it? It's a doing business as dealing, because the actual corporation has an entirely different name, and that name is also in the paperwork. I can't think of it right now. It has something to do with Health and Human Services. Is the actual corporation which is disguising who these people are out of the District of Criminals. They're carpetbaggers is what they are. And there are actually two other government entities established at Akwesasne as well. Mohawk Band Council and the Mohawk Tribal something or another. So there's three government entities actually functioning, though they only talk about one. Plus there are two original or longhouses. So there's a total of 5 longhouses at Akwesasne. It's the old issue of divide and conquer. You keep the people divided and you conquer them. There are over 15,000 people that live at Akwesasne, and it's a poverty zone, folks. And this casino was started as a means by which to actually help the people of the nation. They also started tobacco companies, which is another issue that's been ongoing here as well, which we're battling. There were 14 tobacco companies in Akwesasne, and this year the federal government has shut down 7 or 8, either 7 or 8 already been forced out of business by the federal government at Akwesasne this year because they refused to buy a license. They're not required to buy a license.
Why not?
Because they're exempt under treaty law.
What treaty?
International law.
Are we talking about American Indian treaties, Canadian Indian treaties?
The Jay Treaty, for one, 1794 Jay Treaty, and the German Flag Treaty of 1775.
Okay.
Now, most people are always citing the Canandaigua Treaty as basis. In fact, one of the stupid lawyers at law involved in this case, that was the first thing he did. He filed a dismissal based on the Canandaigua, but the courts have already ruled several times that the Canandaigua Treaty was null and void. Well, here's the real issue. The state of New York claims land west of the Susquehanna River based on the Canandaigua Treaty. If the treaty is null and void, then they don't have a valid land claim. Oops. And they claim all the land north of the Mohawk River based on the Fort Stanwix Treaty. Well, the Fort Stanwix Treaty was signed by 10 drunken Indians who didn't represent anybody. Oops. Therefore, all land claims north of the West Point or Royal Proclamation Line are null and void. And even if you go back and read the German Flag Treaty, one of the key issues was the land at Albany was up on grabs and was supposed to be paid for. That the United States government or Continental Congress had seized or taken possession of land at Albany without paying for it. That's part of the German Flag Treaty. They never got paid.
Sounds like today.
Washington's answer for payment is that he sent Sullivan in on the Sullivan campaign to exterminate all the non-cooperatives that were in the area. By the way, Sullivan and the entire company were all members of the Masonic Lodge. They were all sworn to secrecy, and that's posted on Ghani, ka-ni.info, ka-ni.info. You can find the Sullivan campaign, all the historical documents dealing with how George Washington ordered Sullivan to go in and kill out all the Indians.
All right, well, Dave,
man, woman, and child.
Dave, for sake of time, the viewers want to know, why is it that these Indian chiefs were arrested? How long were they put in jail? How were they represented? How did you get involved? And what's the final victory now? And what is this Harry James versus Her Majesty the Queen? I'm sure at your website, sirdavidandrew.com, you've got a lot on that. But can you give it to us in a nutshell?
Okay, the arrest is based upon them not buying a New York State license. They didn't buy one based on the advice of an attorney named Pease out of Messina and an attorney named Scott Michael Moore from Rockefeller Plaza in New York City, who wrote lengthy reports showing that they were not required to buy a license, and they are not required to buy a license. That is for certain. However, the U.S. has twisted this case to no end, trying to make all sorts of claims of basically the divine right of kings is what the U.S. attorney is peddling. That the all-important Congress are deity and they have the right to make decisions. What these gentlemen did is set up a Class 2 casino.
Self-governing, probably self-governing.
Self-governing, and this was done in the name of the Longhouse, and the monies, the proceeds, were to go to finance government, the lawful government of Akwesasne, not the carpetbagging government, and that's what the U.S. government is afraid of, that these people would become self-sustaining and they would no longer need the lapdog or the Uncle Sugar to feed them.
Okay, Dave.
They're in absolute poverty up there for the most part.
When these tribal headmen were arrested, give us their names and how long they've been incarcerated without being let out, and what laws have been violated as a result. How have their civil rights as Indians been violated, and as international citizens?
Okay, the James Gray has never been arrested. James Gray is out of the country. Just like with the tobacco cases, which we discussed previously, one of the guys is out of the country. So the tobacco cases are all on hold too because they can't get all of them. And they decided on this one because it's such a hot potato. They finally decided to run the trial without James Gray. William Rogers or William Roger Jock. I think he's a Mason. I think he's a ringer. And he made bail immediately, and his attorneys are continually trying to make deals. Not sure where Roger's at. Then the Thomas Angus Square, which, as I say, there's no such thing. There's no birth certificate, nothing. It's La Laguisier, Aguajo, or sometimes called Salt. He's been in prison since the 18th of December of 2012. He was released on Friday after being 325 days in jail without cause, no reason whatsoever. They had no jurisdiction authority to hold him, none, zero. And it's pretty lengthy to go into details about how they got away with keeping him there by forging documents. And they get paid for every day they held him. Anthony Laughing, he made bail. And then there's a Joseph Haidt. Joseph Haidt is the man who owns the dealership for gambling equipment. He owns the company that supplied the slot machines for the Class 2 casino, and they arrested him too. And there's the man. Those are the men right now that are here on trial.
Well, Dave,
the case number is 12-CR-569 in the Northern District Court of the United States District Courts.
Dave, who's in charge of the mafia in New York, basically? Who would benefit by throwing these guys in jail and putting them out of business?
The guy that's in charge of the mafia here in New York is the Buffalino family out of Buffalo, New York. But the actual ultimate guy is oh boy, I can't even think of his name. He's the man who owns Seagram 7 or Seagram Corporation, the whiskey company.
Oh, Seagram's?
Seagram's out of Canada.
How about the governor of New York? Is he involved?
Governor Andrew Cuomo, the butcher of Waco, the man who murdered 17 children under the age of 10 in Waco, Texas, in April 19th, 1992. His father is up to his necks and elbows in gangster land. And he's the man who set up all these casinos in 1990 and forced all these Indians into contracting with him in private contracts of waiving their sovereignty in exchange for crumbs from the casino table. Excuse me. First of all, the people who signed all these contracts are band councils set up by the Congress, not by the people.
Sounds like Indian representatives who traded glass beads, whiskey, and blankets with cholera in exchange for Indian land way back. Well, Dave, because we're running out of time for part 1, I would like to stop at this point, and then we'll come back for part 2. You've been listening to Dave from New York, who is a very brilliant man when it comes to the law, who's taken great personal risk and finance to try and represent some members of Indian tribes and help protect indigenous peoples from corrupt government officials here in the United States. This is Sean Teschner signing off from part 1. Dave, we'll be back for part 2. Thank you.